Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com and my favorite daily fantasy site, draft.com, where if you use the promo code BOXES when you sign up, you will get a free entry to your first draft. I am your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Mike, I was wondering about this.
Listen, we haven't had a podcast in a couple weeks. We're back. We're getting back in the swing of things. The All-Star break was a lot of fun, and you're already starting with this.
Well, I like to keep you on your toes here.
It wakes me up for the show. At
what point in the standings, how many games behind do you have to get, do you think, before you realize you're a trashy organization, especially when it's happened 10 years in a row?
Are you talking about fantasy basketball or real basketball?
I'm talking about real basketball.
My organization?
Talk about real basketball.
My ownership conglomerate that I have?
Because I feel like when you're 30 games back of the best team in the league and you only have 20 wins, you need to reevaluate your life situation.
I mean, it's a complicated question because, isn't that what you're going for? If you suck, shouldn't you suck the most, especially in a year like this year?
Yeah, but I feel like some of these teams just do it every single year. I'm looking at you, Brooklyn. I'm looking at you, Sacramento.
Well, the Brooklyn is a six. We talked about this 7-8 years ago when everybody was sitting around watching that trade happen and going, "Oh God, Brooklyn's going to be terrible for a half a decade." Here it is. It's a half a decade later, and they're terrible still. I would actually say Orlando has the most explaining to do.
I feel like, Orlando's right there. It is crazy to me, though, that there are that many teams that are just huddling at the bottom.
Yeah, they're throwing games, and for some reason the Bulls haven't figured it out. They need to be throwing games. I watched the Memphis Grizzlies just dribble out with the ball out in front of them for the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. The Spurs were just stealing the ball and dunking all over them, and went on a 20-point run to barely win the game. And it's something has to be done because it was criminal what I watched tonight with the Memphis Grizzlies tanking out of their mind.
And I heard a cool proposal the other day where it said that just give the teams with the 3 worst records, or the 2 worst records, the top 2 picks, and then give the the 3rd or the 4th overall pick to the first team that misses the playoffs. So that way it'll incentivize you. Well, but here's the thing, okay? So if you really suck, really suck, because there are going to be times where teams just their draft pick flames out, whatever. If they're a small market team, their star finally retires. I mean, I think we're seeing it with Dallas, right? The sun is setting on Dirk Nowitzki's career, and they don't really have the type of player to replace him. And so I don't think you want to make those teams in hell forever, right? You don't want to keep giving it to the next best team that misses the playoffs, because that team's going to eventually make the playoffs, and teams at the bottom will stay at the bottom forever. But I feel if you just let 1 or 2 in there, not all of these teams, look at from Chicago down in the standings. There are
4 teams with 20 wins, 2 teams with 19 wins. Memphis has 18. The Bulls have 21.
That's 8 teams right there, right?
That's your 8-team lottery. And there's about 8 good players coming out of this draft.
I feel like some of those teams would be trying to win more games right now if they knew that only the top 2 picks, and then then the wins actually help them.
I think Dallas would be trying to win more games because I know they're capable of it.
I think Memphis is capable of it too.
It's trying to win games. That's what's hilarious.
Well, Sacramento, oh my Lord. I wrote an article just the other day about why are they still playing Zach Randolph and starting him every other game and playing him 30-some minutes a game? What are you thinking?
They're still doing it.
Yeah, but now they decided that he rests every other game. So every other game they start Scalabissiere and give him 30 minutes.
Who has looked pretty good.
Yeah, I always think he looks pretty all right. Like in comparison to Zebo, like is Zebo even a better player right now? That's a fair question, I think.
Yeah, that is a fair question because I think Zebo has more pretty blatant skills, but like he can't stay in front of guys and,
Dude, he
run
can't
and run the floor. Like
the only guy he can defend is a tree. He could defend a tree because he doesn't have to move.
Yeah,
but if he can move,
he can defend.
He can't stay in front of you.
Jaja Pachulia, I think.
So,
maybe not even Jaja.
Because I mean, he was never a fast man, and I think I said this in the article. Like he never was blessed with good foot speed, but he always had a big body. But now it's like, I mean, literally, I don't see anybody he stays in front of. Like if you try to drive on him, you go right past him, and he can't protect the rim. Like he can't be one of those like just I sit under the rim and try to block shots because he's never been able to do that.
No, Scalabissiere in his starts, his 3 starts, has been fantasy relevant, and quite frankly, he's probably one of the guys that I'm either watching or picking up to spot start as we go down the stretch. But now I have to deal with the fact that he's going to play 25 minutes when Zach Randolph plays, and he's going to play hopefully 32 minutes, 33 minutes when he starts.
Yeah, and I just don't get it. Like, just let him play 30 minutes every game. Like, just who cares? Like,
well, what's going on here? Like, why are you hindering the progress of one of your young players? He's 22 freaking years old.
Because it's the old boys club, and Yeager and Randolph are buddies, man. That's the only reason. Plus, I think Yeager's afraid to tell Zach Randolph, like, you're not playing anymore, bro, because he's afraid Zach Randolph might.
Well, Zach Randolph I don't think Zach Randolph, he's a little too old to lose it. I think Zach Randolph will happen. Oh, you're not going to start anymore, Zach Randolph. That's cool, man. I'm going to peace out. And all of a sudden, we just won't see Zach Randolph anymore. Like, he'll just be, like, up in the hills, smoking doing bong rips. And more power to him. Like, it's, respect. That's where I would be if I was rich in California. Up in the hills doing bong rips.
No comment on any of that. I'm not gonna go there.
You're not gonna incriminate yourself?
I'm not incriminate myself.
Well, don't worry. Soon there will be no criminals, hopefully. But this is not a podcast about the legalization of marijuana, even though we should start one of those. This is a fantasy basketball podcast, and if you're playing fantasy basketball right now, chances are, if you're in a head-to-head league, because Roto, respect to all my Roto players out there, you're playing the pretty much the mature game, the better game, and a lot of people say, Mike, it doesn't matter if people like what they like; it's all good if they're having a good time. You're wrong. Roto is the best format, but as a lot of you do, you play head-to-head, and you are probably on your way into the playoffs. It is playoffs time, Tyler. Are you excited about this?
Well, I always think that's exciting in the sense that just like in real basketball, the games kind of mean more. You care a little bit more about your pickups, maybe. You do a little more research than just going, oh, Scalabissiere looks good. He's been playing like 30 minutes. I guess I'll pick him up, right?
You actually look to see if Zach Randolph's going to start or not.
Well, and you actually see maybe what categories you need for the week. Like, oh, man, I feel like I'm good in rebounds, so Scal's not going to help me that much. Really what I need is assists, so I'm going to pick up someone who's going to get me some assists. So you just play a little bit smarter probably to spend a little bit more time into it. So that's kind of the start.
Yeah, that's a lot of I like the leagues that do the 2-week playoffs. I feel like that is a better representation of who is the better player. 1 week, one guy can get pretty lucky. There was a week, I believe, in our listener league, which is a longer league, but we are headed towards that playoffs. And I think in our listener league, I lost like 5 categories by a game. Like if one guy had like one good game, I would have I would it would have been switched. But our league is coming down to the stretch. A very hot week for yours truly, going 7-2 against the Sloan Ranger and taking over third place.
I'll give a shout out to one of your favorite players. So I was in a head-to-head league last year, and in the final matchup, I was like, oh, I'm gonna win points, and points was really the category it was gonna come down to. And your boy, old Willie Barton, dropped a 35 spot in the final week.
That's right, Will Barton.
Win. He had 35. He had a 35 and a 22-point game in that week, and I remember losing by like 3 points. So your boy Willie Barton pretty much cost me the championship.
Yeah, that's what you get. That's what you get for talking crap about Will Barton and not thinking he's any good. Because once again, down the stretch, Will Barton is a top fantasy player. And
do you think he just waits till like half the teams don't care and then he just rips it up? Like he's just like waiting for those teams to be like, you know what?
That's exactly it.
We stink. And then he's just like, you know what? I'm Will Barton, man. I'm just gonna go nuts.
Sometime around late February, Will Barton's like, oh yeah, I'm really good at basketball, and then he destroys teams personally.
I thought maybe he just like started eating his Wheaties like right about that time. Like, I'm just gonna finally eat my Wheaties and take you guys out. I'm tired of this.
He comes on when it matters, and that's all that matters. I don't know why he wouldn't be owned in every single freaking league in the first place, let alone right now. But surprisingly, I'm not sure Will Barton has been that popular up until the last few weeks, where he is in the last month. Now, granted, we had our All-Star break, so it was only an 11-game sample. But in an 11-game sample in the last month in a Roto league, he is the 9th best player.
Oh, well, it's been good, man.
That's crazy. So, I'm not entirely sure why anyone why he would be on any waiver wire anywhere, even in the super shallow leagues. But when it comes to the playoffs, you got to switch up your strategy. And you're right. You're taking a little bit more serious. You are looking at the matchups. You're maximizing your games. You're probably maximizing your games anyway. If you've gotten to the playoffs, you know what you're doing. You're listening to this podcast. You already know the basics. But what are some of the advanced strategies? What some of the things you have to let go from your regular season strategy that will help you succeed in the playoffs?
Well, we can get into a little discussion about the finals matchup here in a few weeks, because I might change things up even again during my finals matchup, knowing that it's the very last one.
I think that's pretty obvious, and I think you're headed in the same direction I am.
But as far as like in this first round, and now it depends on how many teams your playoffs let in. If you're a team with a bye, let's say, okay, don't go to sleep this week. Okay. No. If your team has like 6 playoff teams and you've got a bye, don't go to sleep. You got to be watching the games. You got to be looking for injuries. You don't want to get caught with your pants down, not picking up the guy that could be the difference maker.
In fact, you want to use this week to really maximize your bench, the guys you were dropping anyway, the guys you're streaming. Get them all on board now when no one's paying attention for next week.
Yeah, and you want to look.
We're going to play 4 games.
Yeah, you want to look at next week's schedule and know, like, okay, this is the guy I want next week, man. This is my pickup I'm going to hold for next week.
And you want to take and look at your 2 matchups, the 2 potential matchups for next week, and scout them out too. What are they good at? What are they bad at? Maybe they dominate everybody in assists. So you're like, all right, I don't need to go after any of those point guards down on the end or at the top of my waiver wire. I'm going to actually go after a bunch of big men because this guy's going to dominate me in assists no matter what, because I'm not that good in assists. So you want to make sure you are legitimately going, like, you're trying to match up against one single person. Now, you don't want to drop everybody on your team just to win 1 week. Desperate times obviously call for desperate measures. And But round one is not desperate times.
And we could talk a little bit about next week because next week's a very interesting week as far as fantasy goes. There are 3 very heavy days on the schedule and 4 very light days. And so that's going to make the streaming a little harder on Tuesday, on Thursday, and on Saturday. You're probably not going to be able to stream anybody in. So you're only going to have really 4 days where you can stream some guys. If you're looking ahead to that week, I'll say the absolute best schedule next week is the Sacramento Kings. They have 4 games and they have 3 games on light scheduled days. So if you're looking to pick somebody up for next week, like if you have a bye, any of those Kings players, and a lot of them are not that highly owned. You got guys like Scalabissiere. Frank Mason's been playing pretty well. If you're in a kind of deeper league, that might be someone you want to look at who's probably not owned hardly at all. Obviously, you got Bogdan Bogdanovic, Willie Cauley-Stein, all those De'Aaron Fox, all those guys should be owned and held.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a while. Those guys should be owned for sure.
Buddy Hield, I mean, if you're looking for points and threes, Buddy's going to be good.
Yeah, this is the perfect time to look ahead, figure out, maximize your games, maximize your pickups and drops, plan them out. You can see your schedule. You can look ahead a week. Probably you can look ahead 2 weeks. Like, just get to work. This is what you've been playing for all season. In my case, when I'm playing a head-to-head, I'm usually streaming somewhere between 1 and 3 players. And I actually will probably, depending on who these players are, if my fourth worst player is like Nicholas Batum, he's not getting dropped. But I'll start streaming up to 4 to 5 players by the end of the week. Maybe not the beginning of the week, but by the end of the week, I want to maximize my game. I want to stream as much as humanly possible. And guys who weren't expendable in the regular season become expendable in the playoffs because this is it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'll give a shout out to Mr. Hashtag Basketball himself, Joseph Mamoni, just posted his rest of season 9 category rankings based on the games that are left in fantasy basketball just a few hours ago. So you can go to Hashtag Basketball and look at that. If you also click on the fantasy basketball projections page, those are updated roughly 3 times a week. So we have a lot of great tools for you to use to see like, oh man, this player is looking really good down the stretch. He's got a lot of games. Like James Harden still has 20 games left. I mean, the Rockets have a ton of games left. They have the most of any team probably.
Yeah, and that's important. That's important in a roto league too. If your trade deadline is passed or is coming, a lot of people's trade deadlines I think are right around this moment. At least in the leagues I play, we like to extend past the All-Star break and the actual real NBA trade deadline. And hey, if you're in a roto league and you're behind on games, which don't get too far behind on games, and we can switch to a little roto talk now, but like right now, you do not want to be drastically behind in games because you're thinking to yourself, oh man, I can catch up real quick. I got a bunch of guys on the bench. Don't worry about it. You'd be surprised how long it actually does take to make up 6-7 games because you got to time it just right. And down the stretch, your starters, some of them are going to be sitting.
Well, yeah, and
those are extra games you're going to miss.
Well, yeah, and if you're 6 games ahead in a spot, right, like shooting guard, well, you can only play one shooting guard a day. There's only so many days left in your season. You know what I mean? If your playoffs end in 3 weeks, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you basically have to play someone in that spot every single day. Well, if your 2 shooting guards you have on your roster both play on Wednesday, but neither one of them play on Thursday, that ain't gonna help you.
That's a huge problem at this point, and that you should be addressing it right now.
And also say this for, there are a lot of head-to-head leagues that have a games maximum, right? Like, okay, we're playing 50 games this week maximum. Reach the maximum. Play 50 games. On ESPN, if you're at 49 games going into Sunday or Saturday, whatever day, doesn't matter, you can play a full roster that day.
Yeah, you could.
Let's go over the maximum. Do it.
That's an old pro tip. The limits number there is on the last day of the season on a roto league, you can get a couple extra games in. But yeah, you're right. On the head-to-head leagues, it's the same thing. If you're not playing that, if you're maxing out those games, then you're just not doing it right.
Yeah, I mean, don't leave that. And here's another thing I'll try to do too. I'll maximize the minutes in a lot of leagues. Like we were talking just before the pod started about a little debate we were having between two players, and I'm like, I'll take the guy who's getting the consistent minutes. Like,
well, let's let the listeners in on who we were talking about. I am, and this is one of my expendable guys that I was not expendable during the regular season. Coming up here, Miles Turner, who has been underperforming, underachieving all year, probably still concussed from week 1, is struggling enough for me to say, listen, if you got 2 games that you're going to miss, and Miles Turner right now has a pretty decent schedule. But next week, I'd have to go look. But if he's got a 2-game layoff and there's not that many games left, I'm going to drop this guy because you can go out and get John Collins or Jared Allen, who are putting up similar numbers, though not as consistent. Tyler's going to do the counter argument. But it's not worth it to hold on to these in a standard league. It always depends on the size of your league. To these mediocre guys when it's coming down to the stretch. Those guys are expendable if the right circumstance and the right player off the waiver wire is available.
Oh, yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree, right? Like, at some point, you're just shooting the moon. If the Nets told you tomorrow, and they're never going to do this, that Jared Allen was going to play 30 minutes in every game for the rest of the season, I mean, that would drastically change a player's value. And you might be willing to drop a player like Miles Turner for Jared Allen. But to me, it comes down to consistency of minutes. Jared Allen in the last 3 games, 29, 38, 30 minutes. So he looks pretty safe right now for 30 minutes a game. Jared Allen, last 3 games, 17, 34, 28. If you keep going back a little further, 23, 26, 20, 18. If I'm looking at these 2 players, I'm trying to maximize my minutes because I think both guys can do some pretty good things on the floor. I think both guys could get you a 20-point game. Both guys can get 10 rebounds. Both guys can get a few assists, get a few steals, get a few blocks. So to me, I want the guy who's going to play the more consistent minutes, and I just feel like that's Miles Turner.
Oh yeah, certainly. But I'm not dropping Miles Turner, who's playing tonight, for Jared Allen, who's playing tonight. It's more of I don't mind losing Miles Turner to the waiver wire if he can be replaced by guys who are playing more games as the week goes on. So if he's only got 1 game left this week and there's 4 more days left in the week, Jared Allen's got 2. I'm going to make the move. You might not get him back on your waiver. Someone might snag him up. But what's left? There's another week, 2 weeks of playoffs.
Well, and this is an important thing to say too, right? Like at some point, this could be your last week.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we get to Friday and you're way behind and there's no games limit and you need to catch up, I don't care if Miles Turner's your 5th best player. If he doesn't play anymore, you might want to cut him. Like this is your last week as far as you're concerned. Like if you don't make a huge comeback, you don't play anymore and you need games. So you might have to cut. And yeah, sure, the guy you're playing next week might pick up Miles Turner and use him to beat you, but you made it 1 week further than you were going to.
Yeah, there's definitely a line, and I don't know. The line is different for everybody, and depending on the size of their league. But I'm not dropping Steph Curry because he's got Saturday and Sunday off. Like that's just not worth it because he'll be picked up obviously immediately, and he will beat you next week. Versus someone like Miles Turner, who is good but not a game-changing fantasy player this
I would
season.
say in a standard 10-team league, the line is actually pretty high. I would say, like, if you're a top 50 player, I probably wouldn't drop you. Anybody outside the top 50, I'd probably cut you to try to win the week if you didn't play any more games.
That's a fair line. I like that line.
In the 12-team league, the line would drop to probably like top 75, top 80.
I don't, I might not drop it that far.
Just because I feel like
desperate times, man.
But I mean it, and that's it. Like, especially, I mean, well, like your league plays for a little bit of coin.
Yeah.
And the top 4 teams get money.
Get in that top 4.
Like, what I mean? You got to make the semis to get money, and this is the round of, the quarterfinal round. Dude, I might cut just about anybody to try to get the coin.
So the playoffs, they're complicated. Anything can happen, but that's the whole point. This is why we play. And, good luck out there. And if you have any other playoff questions, a lot of people have different playoff styles with the 2 weeks versus 1 week. Feel free to hit us up, tweet at us and message us, and we'll be willing to answer those questions to you on Twitter and provide them to the listeners as well. So a lot of teams are going on their playoffs right now, and if you need some help with your playoffs or just have a general question about the playoffs, feel free to tweet at me, Watch the Boxes, or Tyler at Watsy4444. Let's get into some of the news that's happened over the last few weeks. There's some of the, I guess, fallout from all the trades, and kind of level set here, because this is the time of the year where people come out of nowhere. Will Barton is top 10 player. That's not out of nowhere though. He's always a top 10 player in the last month and a half of the season. Like, that's pretty normal. But if you go back and listen to how we dissected that all the Cavaliers trades, we went out there and said you need to be picking up Larry Nance Jr. And time is told that Larry Nance Jr. is starting to get a lot more minutes. The first few of those games, he wasn't getting too many minutes, but now he seems to be playing at a consistent clip, and he's thriving playing with someone as talented and just able to see the court like LeBron does.
Well, and that Tristan Thompson injury obviously opened up some more minutes for him, and I mean, I think he's going to take advantage of that. Just tonight, he had a big 22 and 15 game. The great thing about Larry Nance has always been the defensive stats. Like, even when he was playing for the Lakers, he was a standard league viable pickup all the time, and now wouldn't be even hated if you held him, in the sense that he always got really good steal numbers. Now, you want the block numbers to come up a little bit, but I mean, 1.3 steals a game, like in deeper leagues, you get 6 rebounds and 1.3 steals a game with pretty good percentages. Like, that was almost worth owning in like 14, 16 team leagues. Like, that's a guy I would probably hold on to because he's good in a couple categories.
And that's in 22 minutes a game.
So I mean, and now if you figure he's going to play 30, like, those numbers could be real nice for the Cavs.
Absolutely. I think he is a must-own. If he is available in your league, go out there and pick him up right now, because his percentages are solid, and his free throw is not great, but it's not going to destroy you. For all you roto cats out there, turnovers are non-existent. And then one of those rare categories, rebounds. If he's going to be playing starters minutes, he's going to be he could be approach a double-digit rebounder.
And I think he's also going to be probably like a steal and a half, at least.
Yeah.
Which that's big money there.
Maybe even almost a block.
I could see it.
And down the stretch, a guy coming off your waiver wire, putting up 10 rebounds, steal and a half. Right there alone, I'm interested, let alone a good field goal percentage and maybe even a block a game. Are there any other down the stretch playoff warriors that you've been keeping an eye on lately?
I feel like there's a lot of guys who get real sneaky this time of year. And this is an important thing to watch. And this is something I look at kind of every night when just looking at the box scores. Look for guys who are just like doing something as far as minutes that they haven't really done all year, especially on these teams that aren't really competing. They're all going to start just going, all right, well, let's see what we got with this player. Let's see what we got with this player. And a good example lately, you know what I mean? Like Marquise Chris is getting a ton of minutes and Alex Len's really not getting any for the Suns, right? Like the Suns have decided that they're basically going to play. They're going to play Josh Jackson. They're going to play Marquise Chris. They're going to play Booker, Peyton, TJ Warren, Draga Bender. They're going to play all those guys a ton of minutes and pretty much forget the rest. And guys like Marquise Chris might be really valuable down the stretch. Now, he's not the perfect guy, but you're going to see more and more teams that are out of the race start doing this. Just going, these are the 6 or 7 or 8 guys we really want to see what we got with. We're going to give them a crap ton of minutes and just forget all these rest of the guys. Like, if you own Tyson Chandler or Alex Len right now, I'd drop both. Get rid of them.
They got to go.
They're just not going to play.
And that's going to happen. Like, there's going to be guys, especially on these tanking teams, where they just go, we're done. You're going to play 20 minutes a game, 12 minutes a game, 0 minutes a game. And guys are going to come out of the woodwork. And in a what I assume was a tanking move, but I feel like it's a bad tanking move because I think this guy is very good. David Nwaba has started the last 6 games for the Chicago Bulls and has put up some really good across-the-board stats, and his steals have been incredible. Now, it's a small sample size for sure, but I don't know why you wouldn't want to pick that guy up in your standard leagues. He's kind of in the lower end of those standard leagues, but he is standard league relevant when he is starting and playing 31, 32 minutes a game.
I got this question just yesterday, and I'll pose it to you. Pick up for the rest of the season. You can have David Nwaba or JaMychal Green.
Oh, pretty good question. I'm obviously biased. I think I've been on David Nwaba for a very long time. I just thought he should have been playing more in general. He's got a very good, just good athleticism. He's incredibly quick. But man, JaMychal Green, on the other hand, I just don't know what Memphis is going to do. Like, why in the world would JaMychal Green not start and play extended minutes? There's like no one behind him. I'm probably gonna go. I'm probably gonna go with JaMychal Green because here in 2.5, 3 weeks, out of nowhere, David Nwaba could just go right back to the bench, and I don't see that happening for JaMychal Green.
That's fair. I went the exact other way, and here's why. And I'm gonna make a statement that's not gonna be super good for people because people seem to love this player, but like, what does JaMychal Green do that's special?
Not a whole lot. He's a good rebounder.
That's it. That's it. That's the only one.
He's a good rebounder. He hits occasional three.
But he kind of shoots a crap percentage from the field for a big man, right? For a power forward, like 45% is not what you want. 75% from the free throw line's okay for a big guy. 1.3 assists. That's not really helping you much. That can't even get you half a block. Barely over half a steal. 10 points. Like, give me Nwaba, man. If he's playing 30 minutes, he's going to get you like 1.2 steals a game. He's averaging over half a block a game in 22 minutes on the season. He's shooting a good field goal percentage, right? He's going to shoot some threes. He's going to get some rebounds. He's going to get more assists. He's probably going to get similar points. Like, I went with Nwaba just because I feel like the defensive stats are going to make a difference. And JaMychal Green just really doesn't give you anything in those categories.
If you can guarantee me David Nwaba to start for the rest of the year, then I'm with you.
I don't see why they don't. I mean, they said they want to see what they got in this guy. So, I mean, why stop now? Who are you going to play over him?
He's better than Denzel Valentine, that's for sure.
That's what I mean. I think they've come to that conclusion. Like, Denzel Valentine's not a piece we're building around. Maybe David Nwaba could be. Let's see. Let's see for the last 15 games, 20 games, what this guy is. Yeah, Yeah, so JaMychal Green is just not a guy I'm going to be super interested in fantasy at any point going forward. Like, even if this guy next year is the starter for the Grizzlies, like,
he's as good as he is right now. Like, who cares?
so I mean, like, I'm going to let somebody else take him probably because I don't think he does anything that's special other than 8 rebounds, which, okay, he gives you 8 rebounds, but
if you need rebounds, that's great. But he's at that bottom of the barrel at a standard league kind of possibly even as in the playoffs. He's definitely a streamer
with no upside. I mean, like, I don't see any upside for this guy to like vault into the top 100. Like, he's already 27.
No, none.
Like, he just is what he is. He's a crappy field goal percentage, good rebounder who doesn't get you defensive stats and only scores 10 points a game.
Well, let me throw another hypothetical at you. Who would you rather have for the rest of the season, David Nwaba or the resurging Justice Winslow?
That's good.
Very similar players.
You know, an old Justice, man, he's a tough nut to crack. He's a tough guy to peg a little bit.
He's been granted, he's been kind of injury plagued over the last 2 seasons, and we haven't really got a good stint of playing time out of him. Every once in a while, he'll put together a game that's really, really absurd, but he's often missing in action. Against Phoenix tonight, he had an absurd line. 12 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. That's a lot. Against Memphis, now granted, these are trash teams that he's putting up points against. In only 28 minutes, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block. He's got that 9 cat across the board type of ability, and he is playing a little bit more with some of the injuries that are happening in Miami.
Let me ask you this question, and this kind of maybe is a good talking point. Okay, so the one thing we've seen from Justice Winslow in his 3, albeit 2 relatively short seasons in the NBA, is he is not a good field goal percentage shooter.
No.
Okay, but he's been really hot. Like the last 5 games, he is shooting over 50%. Okay, we're getting
still only scoring 11 points though.
Fact, but we're getting to the point in the season where there's a very short sample left, right?
Yeah.
And over short samples, basically anything can happen, right? Like, could Justice Winslow shoot over 50% for the rest of the season? Yes, it is possible.
Yeah, sure.
Is it likely?
No.
But are you a man who wants to ride a hot hand? Like, let's say Justice Winslow is playing tomorrow, and I don't know, name a similar player who is just being okay right now. Like, Justice Winslow's been pretty hot for Justice Winslow. You just read off the game he had tonight. He's had over 2 steals in each of the last 3 games. And if you go back his last 7 games, he's had 4 steals, 2 steals, 2 steals. Then he didn't steal any. Then he had 3 games in a row where he had 3 steals. So he's hot in steals.
That could win you a week. That could win you a playoff round. It could win you a roto league. Just those 10, 11 steals.
So, I mean, he's hot in steals. Games. He's getting minutes, right? Like, he's just on a hot run right now.
Yeah.
So are you going to take a guy who's steady across the board, or are you going to take the hot run? Because we know the bottom could drop out at any time, right? Like, we've seen games just about 2 weeks ago. He had a 16-minute game where he was 1 for 6 from the field and did pretty much nothing.
At this phase of the season, I think you have to play the hot hand.
And that's kind of where I'm at too. Like, if you give me Joe
falls
Steady
off the earth, drop him.
That's what I mean. Just cut him. Like, there's nothing lost at that point, right? Like, other than you wasted a game for yourself.
Sure. You might have got 3 good games and 1 bad. Hey, that's better than the reverse.
And that's another thing to say is, like, I mean, you said it about Will Barton, right? Like, oh, he's a top 10 player, like, right at the end of the season. Like, anybody could be a top 10 player. In the short sample size, like, if your playoffs only last for 2 weeks, you play 2 1-week matchups, you could look back and, like, almost any guy who's playing 25 to 30 minutes a game could be a top 10 player. Just because, Will Barton got hot and had a 40-point game and a 30-point game.
Yeah. Lonzo Ball is hot right now.
And actually finally making his shot a little bit.
Yeah, he's shooting much better from 3-point Tobias Harris is looking good, and he should be owned anyway. Darren Collison is not owned by enough people, and we've been saying to pick him up in the past, and he's been playing very well lately. Hell, even Brandon Ingram and Mario Hezonja are having decent post All-Star couple weeks. Anything goes at this point.
Yeah, and Darren Collison is out today, and
sure.
CBS Sports said that he's likely out for a week with a knee injury. So
that's not good.
So I would probably
I did not know that.
You can look at it this way too.
I knew he was out, but a week. Ugh.
That's what I mean. So here's the thing: if I own Darren Collison right now, I might drop him, man. If I think this is going to be a really tight matchup and there's no games limit in a head-to-head league, I might say, "See you, Darren, man. Someone else might pick you up to beat me next week when you're back healthy, but I can't afford to miss the 4 games, the 5 games, the 6 games, the 7 games I can get from somebody else."
Yeah, I apologize. I thought he was back. And he's not.
It's all good. We all make mistakes, my friend. We all get.
I spent a lot of time in Alaska over the All-Star break. Drank a lot of Alaskan beer. And I forgot about Darren Collison. I drank so much I forgot about Darren Collison.
It happens to the best of us.
It's rough. It's given Bogdanovich a lot more, I guess, free reign to jack shots. Corey Joseph has been playing a lot more. Not enough. Corey Joseph hasn't been playing well enough to really tickle my fancy at all.
Corey Joseph, pretty decent real life NBA player, sure. Not a good fantasy player.
Now, worth a stream if he does get the occasional steal and the occasional decent assist night. So worth a stream if he's around, if that's what you need, if you need those point guard, because he is going to be playing with Darren Collison out. Let's see who else is out here. I forgot to pour one out for one of my old friends, Jimmy Butler. Jimmy G Buckets. Horrible news for Buckets. He will be out probably the rest of the season. That they haven't ruled that out yet. But definitely for the rest of the fantasy season. Unless you know something I don't know, Tyler.
Well, I mean, they've been kind of ambiguous about this injury, but yeah, you got to think unless. Okay, let me try to figure out a good way to phrase this. He's out for the rest of the fantasy season as far as being fantasy relevant. Like, even if your season, like if you're in a roto league and it goes all the way to the end, I could see him maybe coming back like for the last game or two and then like just trying to get him a few minutes to get his legs under him.
Yeah. What's the best case scenario? He plays like the last 5 games of the season and he plays like somewhere between 12 and 20 minutes a game.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if they know what I mean, like they're in the playoffs or whatever, and they want to try to get his feet under him for the playoff run. But what are the chances of that? They don't seem very good right now.
Perhaps he should not have been playing 37 minutes a night after playing the most minutes in the NBA for like the last 5 seasons. Perhaps Thibodeau is going to run his career into the ground like it ran a lot of other players' careers into the ground. But I was waiting for them to come out of Minnesota and tell me if this was minor surgery or major surgery. And I don't know if I've heard for sure about that.
Oh, I mean, I think things about the whole situation have been very tight-lipped.
And that's suspicious. That starts reeking of a Kawhi Leonard, who also is having his own issues still. Somehow it is March, and we're still having a Kawhi Leonard issue.
Yeah, right. And Butler had that meniscus. I mean, that was all that I've heard, and all you can find is meniscus surgery.
Yeah, it's been like a week.
So I mean, so there are 2 kinds of meniscus surgeries. One, you're out for a very long time. The other one, they do a much less invasive procedure, and you can actually come back in usually like 2 to 3 weeks. But the only problem with that is, and that's the one Dwayne Wade had early in his career, and basically it has some very debilitating long-term effects, and that's why you've seen Dwayne Wade be sat out games in the past and have a lot of knee troubles. Is he kind of blames it on that having that quick meniscus surgery that allowed him to come back really fast, and so I don't know that Jimmy Butler would want to do that for his long-term health.
Yeah, he's 28. He's only 28. That's still, and there's still another contract to be had for Jimmy Butler. And granted, he's getting paid now, which he fully deserves. But I don't think probably in his best interest to just risk it just because Minnesota is going to make the playoffs.
Speaking of old men who have been great fantasy players,
Oh,
what do you think about old Dwayne Wade going down the stretch here? Not playing a ton of minutes, but old Dwayne's been kind of sneaky good here lately.
If there was a time of year where Dwayne Wade would show up, it certainly would be in garbage time. I mean, it's certainly been interesting since he's been back in Miami. They are definitely playing him. I mean, I don't know if I could own a guy who's as inconsistent at this stage of his career as Dwayne Wade is. And he's inconsistent. I mean, that's it. Like, sure, he might drop 20 tomorrow night, but fantasy-wise, what is he doing anymore? He's not he's not going to block shots like he used to down the stretch. He's just not. He's mediocre at everything. He doesn't hit threes.
I will say
I'm
this.
not excited. I'm not excited about him. I maybe stream him. Like, I didn't think I would stream Dwayne Wade this year, and it's certainly on my mind now, but I'm not interested. Standard League.
And we'll circle back to the playoff thing. Okay. If I know, and I shouldn't say this, if I believe that the other team is a heavy favorite, like let's say, a 9-category league, he's a pretty heavy favorite in 5 categories. Right? So I know I have to win one of those categories to beat the guy. Okay. Maybe one of those categories is points. Okay. I would maybe stream Dwayne Wade over the steadier player like JaMychal Green. Okay. Because sure, JaMychal Green's going to get you like 10 to 12 points pretty much every single game, right? We can agree on that. Like there's very little variance there. Okay. But if I'm an underdog, I'm going to stream a guy like Dwayne Wade over that, because Dwayne Wade might get you 6, but he might get you 25.
That's true. It's a risk reward type of move, and you can strike gold. You play him for the right 2 games, and there's an extra 40, 50 points on your roster, and that's a pretty good stream. He's playing tonight. He's playing at Washington tomorrow. Tonight he only had 12 points.
I mean, and it was against the Suns, right? Like, you see, that seems like a good high-paced matchup. But against the Lakers in a good high-paced matchup, he got you 25. In Philly in a probably pretty high-paced matchup, he got you 27.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and this is the kind of a strategy is I'm going to look for high-variance players if I'm an underdog. If I need points, I don't want some steady Eddie, I'm getting you 12, 13 points every game guy. Like, if I need points,
maybe if I would take that guy if they got 4 games this week, you're going to get a steady something, but you have another roster spot. There's no reason to take the guy who's got 3 games this week who's going to be steady and 8 to 12 points a game. Who cares? Go big or go home.
So I mean, like, if you need, especially if you feel like you're down and you need some big high variance numbers, like, you got to go for a high variance player. You can't go for the steady Eddie. So there's another strategy. Like, and what I like to do too, if I'm picking a streamer, is I'll look back at like the last 10 or 12 games for a guy, right? If I see like every game is 8 to 12 points, like you're saying, I'm probably going to be like, no, I'm behind, man. I need someone with a lot more higher variance. Then I'll look at someone like Dwayne Wade. I see some 3s. I see some 6s. I see some 8-point games. but I also see some 25s and some 27s.
I think it's worth the risk, right? Why not? What do you got to lose, especially in the playoffs? I did want to mention, I did want to say, what do you when we talk about Jimmy Butler, your feelings on that roster now that Jimmy Butler is going to be out for the year? A lot of people are expecting Wiggins to step up, and I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to crown Andrew Wiggins as someone who's going to be staying in the league relevant with Jimmy Butler out because Andrew Wiggins in the past hasn't really been that standard league relevant without Jimmy Butler.
Oh no, I think Jeff Teague takes a little bit more of a scoring role, and that's good for me in the leagues that I own him. And he's probably a player we'll talk about in our season wrap up show, in the sense that I think you and I were a little bit higher on him than the consensus, and in a lot of ways, I think he delivered on what we thought, and not what everyone else thought. But we could talk about that at a later date.
A lot of people were out on Jeff Teague, and Jeff Teague has had a great year, both in head-to-head and roto.
Now the injury hurt him a little bit, right? Like he missed some time with that knee injury, and on that freaky play where he got his leg trampled. Yeah. But as far as Andrew Wiggins goes, like I think we know what Andrew Wiggins is. I mean, look at Andrew Wiggins' numbers. Like they're very, very consistent. And even with Jimmy Butler this year, like they've been very consistent. And sure, he might push up closer to 20 points a game. I mean, in each of the last 5 games, he scored 20.
Yeah, his scoring is up, right? He's shooting more threes for some reason.
But the rest of the numbers aren't up. You know what I mean? Like the rebounds aren't up. The assists aren't up. The steals aren't up. Like we know what he is in every category. But instead of 18 points, it's probably 20 now that Jimmy's out.
Yeah, he's just not a scorer. Like last year, without Jimmy Butler, 23 points, 4 rebounds, 1 steal, a little over a 3, 45%. Okay, cool. That's some really great scoring. Those are the, fantastic. He's not doing anything else.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about this a lot, right? Like he's the type of guy in fantasy, like I'm not super excited to own, in the sense that like 2 rebounds for my small forward, or 2 assists for a game for my small forward, like no, that's not very good. Like 4 rebounds, like that kind of stinks. A steal, but nothing more. Like okay, half a like 0.6 blocks. He's pretty consistently 0.6 blocks a game. Like okay, that's all right, but it's not really what I want. It's like just a very hollow 20 points.
Yeah. Actually, probably like the most unsung, boring, but like below the radar, real good entire season has been Taj Gibson. And, Taj, I think still has the same type of value, even with Jimmy Butler out. I don't think really anyone else is going to get too much more fantasy value with Butler out. I know Bialicha is starting, but like I think we know who that guy is too.
Yeah, and I mean he's just, I mean, name something. Like people were saying this, like were asking me, on Twitter, is he a must pick up? And I'm like, like he's gonna play a lot of minutes.
I think he's like a pickup. I'd take a flyer on him like I would take a flyer on Justice Winslow. Sure.
But I say, isn't he like a streamer? I mean, just look at the numbers since Butler's been out. Like, okay, 33, 34, 34, 45 minutes. Like, great minutes. And the production has been very middling. I mean, he's averaging 10 points in those 4 games. Now, he did get 4 steals in a game, so that number looks a lot sexier than it should.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten you 1 block in the 4 games. He's gotten you 8 assists in the 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the rebounds do look pretty good. I mean, he's gotten you 12, 8, 7, but only 4 in that 45-minute game. Like, he just doesn't do anything for fantasy. Like, he's not a big statistical contributor. And the rest of the roster, it's like, Tibbs don't play the bench, so forget that.
Yeah, they're all done. Sorry, Gorgeous Dang. R.I.P. You were great for 2 years.
And that was another one of our great calls this year was we were telling people, like, don't pick him, man. Don't take him. He's not going to start. Like, do not take him. As soon as we found out Gibson was going to start, I mean, I think you and I both were like,
gotta go.
No drafting on Gorgie Dang. And people were saying to me, like, even if he falls to your last pick, you're not going to draft him. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't think he's going to play.
He's not relevant at 26 minutes a game. He is great at 34, 35 minutes a game.
Well, yeah, and then
it's just because every stat is like a little average or above average because everything he does across the board makes him valuable. So you get that game after game after game after game, and it adds up. But you drop all that stuff, half of 10%, right? His value's gone.
Well, and here's the thing I said to people too, like, even in a deeper league, like if you told me he's gonna play like the standard 7 or 8 man on the bench minutes, like 20 to 25 a game, okay, in a deeper league I might be interested. But this is Tibbs we're talking about. Like, I don't know why people thought Tibbs was gonna change his spots, right? Like he never plays any of the bench players any minutes. So why would he start now?
I agree. I'm going to keep an eye on Bielicha. I'm going to keep an eye on Justice Winslow. I might pick them up. I might hold them for a little bit even, depending on my situation. But neither one, I mean, they're not getting me excited, right?
They're not giving you the tinglings?
Nah. David Nwama's giving me a little tingle, but that's after hours tingles. Don't worry about that.
Hashtag don't worry about that.
Hashtag after hours tingles. I think that's it. I think that's it for tonight. Unless you had anything else you wanted to, if you wanted to pour one out for anybody out there, or any other breaking news that I'm, completely botched because I wasn't paying any attention when I was in the beautiful state of Alaska.
No, I think that'll about do it. We will have plenty more chances to discuss some of these players. And some of these players that, we'll see some. I feel like the news this time of year gets very, very important to follow. And maybe this is our last kind of playoff tip, right? Like, some of these teams will start saying, like, the Suns might say, like, we're going to rest Tyson Chandler for the rest of the season. At any point, they could just be like, yeah, he's just not going to play anymore.
Yeah. Kyrie sat out tonight. I was like, oh, God, no. The Bull, or not tonight, but no, it's tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight.
And
Bulls still lost.
Nick Friedel, a man you probably know well,
I do.
Reported that he could miss multiple games with a knee injury.
Yeah.
So not looking good for Mr. Irving.
Nope, but, go pick up your favorite Boston point guard. Give him a stream.
Terry Rozier, man. I'd pick him up right now.
Yeah. Rozier's been good when this has happened in the past. So go pick him up.
Well, and they started Shane Larkin against your Bulls, which was interesting.
They're really trying to screw over the Bulls because Boston is, as you remember, worth less money as a championship contender than the Bulls organization is worth as one of the worst teams in the league.
They started Larkin, but only played him 16 minutes. Rozier played 32. Ended up with 3 rebounds, 7 assists, and 13 points.
Those scum Bostonites are trying to screw up the tank, and I don't respect that. I might have to go visit their city and tell them what I think about them.
I think they'll enjoy that. I think they'll enjoy your tourism dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't talk crap when I'm in another person's city because it's another person's city. Even if you do have trashy people there's trashy people in all cities. There seems to be more in certain cities, like Boston and Philadelphia. But
if you've listened for this long, I got one more player I'll ask you about.
Oh, all right.
And this has been.
You didn't want me to rant about how much trashy some people on the East Coast are?
No, because I figured you just get us in trouble with our many followers and
you know what? I don't care.
In strange states. So Julius Randle, that
Oh,
man has been just crazy good in the month of
that's
February and
true.
the
The
month of
Lakers
March.
are on the up. Brandon Ingram is going to be out for, I believe, like a week, maybe even 2.
Does this make Julius Randle the most overrated player again next year, though?
No.
I feel like it could.
Someone's definitely going to overrate somebody else.
Well,
But he has been, a must-own player over the last since the All-Star break.
yeah, and I mean, even at 25 minutes a game, like you look at his season stats, I mean, shooting a real good field goal percentage, a decent free throw percentage, 7.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 15.1 points, just still no blocks and steals, no 3-pointers. Like he's a very difficult guy to own. Now, for the rest of the season, sure, you're gonna ride him. Like the points and rebounds have been amazing for the last 2 months, but I feel like he might just be making a push to get paid. And behind the scenes, the Lakers have said, right, like that his work ethic is kind of not the best, and I'm worried about this guy once he gets a contract. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I don't, even if he's playing for a contract like he is right now, like okay, good. Those are really great numbers. They're very, very good. I'm not seeing him as a long-term asset because he does this for a week or 2 at a time, some in the past, and then it disappears.
It's true.
Even with the consistent playing time, I just I don't trust him. I'll ride the hot hand. It's playoffs, man. Ride the hot hand. But until he proves otherwise, and also that Lakers situation or his situation becomes different, I'm not looking forward. Not even going to consider drafting him next year.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I'm not considering it.
If he's valued properly, I will consider drafting him. But he won't be. If he's on the Lakers, he won't be because he never is when he's on the Lakers.
Nope.
But if he changes teams and goes to like, I don't know, name a city, Utah, where they're like, I feel like Utah's players are always a little bit undervalued.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like if he goes to a smaller market, like team that's kind of under the radar often.
That'd be interesting to see him with Rudy Gobert.
Well, and here's the thing too, right? Like, I mean, like he was going what in like the 60s and 70s this year, and we kept saying that that's way too high for him. Like, if I can get Julius Randle with my last pick, like
120,
you know what I mean? Like, and I'd pick it just in the hopes that he has the stretches that he like the good stretch that he always has right in the beginning of the season, and then you could
pass him off to your local Laker fan.
That's it, because we talk about this all the time, right? Like those last few picks, what do we pick those guys for, right? We pick them for the home run upside and the ability to go, oh, you're not hitting, we're cutting you and getting somebody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The immediate drop or the, oh, hell yeah, this guy's great. And I'd say 8 times, maybe 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, those guys that you pick late who bust out at the beginning of the season or maybe a couple months into the season, they're the best trade high guys. Like not hardly any of them become, like I said, 2 out of 10 become very good fantasy players out of nowhere. But most of them have like really good hot streaks, and then they kind of revert back to the mean, and they should be moved. They should be moved. Most hot hands should actually be moved.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And so that's what I mean. Like, I feel like if he's in that range, and I don't think he will be, especially at least, I mean, I said this, if he's on the Lakers, he won't be. No. But if I could get him there, like after pick 100, like he's one of my bench players, I'd consider it just to trade that, hope he gets hot and trade him.
Yeah. Why not? So I think that is it for tonight. We'll wrap this up. If you guys like what you hear on the podcast, we really appreciate you guys listening all throughout this season. And if you got any questions about the playoffs, things you want to hear on the podcast. We are going to be doing some end of the year reviews. We're going to be looking forward to next season. Probably talking about some interesting keepers, people to look out for. The end of the season becomes a little bit of weird time because a lot of you head-to-head players give up on the end of the season because your playoffs are over and you've already won the league and you thank us for helping you win the league. That's cool. But for the rest of you guys out there, you Roto guys and your Keeper League guys, Dynasty Leagues, we'll be here to answer all your questions, give you insight into next year. And if you like what you're hearing, please rate and review us. We really, really appreciate that. That helps us a lot. And, of course, tweet at us. You can tweet at me at WatchTheBoxes or Tyler at Watsy. That's 2 T's. 4444. Tyler, anything else to plug?
No, that's it. I'm feeling bad for the Cincinnati Hoops team right now.
What happened?
The Lady Cincinnati Hoops were down tonight 43-5 at the half against UConn.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm not sure they should play those games.
I don't think UConn should UConn should have to play themselves in a scrimmage. I feel like they win the women's national championship
people would watch that
every year.
They used to. Over the last few years there's been a little change in that, but I think they should have a B squad, where they field UConn A and UConn B, and they're both in the tournament.
Dude, what if they would play each other in the finals some of those years, man? I feel like they got bench players that are better than the other team's best player.
They do, and I for the life of me can't understand why you would want, if you were bench good, to be on UConn, but you were obviously great enough to what's the 4th best team in women's basketball? Who knows? But you would be a baller starter star on the 5th best team, 6th best team. I don't know why you don't go to the 6th best team. People hear your name
because you want to win the national title, man.
Does this mean anything anymore? There's all the corruption. NCAA is horrible. They need to pay these kids. I don't know. Is the national championship really that big of a deal anymore?
Well, I mean, it's the old debate people have about would you rather be the backup quarterback on the Patriots or the starter on the Chiefs?
I'd rather be the starter on the Chiefs.
No, dude, I'd rather be the backup on the Patriots. Dude,
well, that's a loaded question.
I make $5 million a year, probably never play, and I win Super Bowl every year. I mean, it just seems like a good gig to have.
That's a loaded question because, am I good enough to play?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're the starter on the Chiefs, you're good enough to play, right? If you're good enough to be the starter on the Chiefs or the starter on any team, you're good enough.
It isn't my athletic ability on this as a starter on the Chiefs.
Right. I would never want to be the starter. If I had my athletic ability, I wouldn't want to be the starter for anyone because I would die in the first time I got tackled.
Immediately dead.
Some 300-pound man would tackle me, and my life would be over.
Yeah. No, I don't need that kind of strife in my life. I don't need all them concussions. Stay out of football. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Pour one out for whoever UConn is smoking right now.
Cincinnati.
Poor Cincinnati.
Those Bearcats.
I'm not sure they have daily fantasy college hoops, but draft.com does have daily fantasy games for all the major sports, including baseball. I believe baseball is coming up. Don't quote me on that. But for mostly basketball, and if you're good at Roto or head-to-head fantasy basketball leagues, you will be good at draft.com. I think you'll have a leg up on a lot of the other people who don't play those types of games because you do a snake draft before each night's games.
It is, and baseball starts early this year. I will say that on the 28th it starts.
Better than baseball.
We did the same thing that basketball did, and we decided to start a week early so we could spread the schedule a little bit more. So if you're into baseball, the draft.com will be available. And I feel like it might be pretty, I won't say easy, but if you know a lot about baseball, you could probably take advantage of some people on draft.com by playing some matchups that they're not even going to be looking at.
That's true. I wasn't even thinking of that. Obviously, there's an overlap between our fantasy audience and people who are obsessed with fantasy sports of all kinds, and fantasy baseball being definitely the real analytics fantasy sport. A lot of time, a lot of effort, and I respect the people who put that kind of time and effort in. And that's a really good point. If you're good at fantasy baseball, you're going to be really good at draft.com. And if you use the promo code BOXES, you will get a free, even for baseball, you will get a free first entry to your first game after you deposit, after signing up. That is the promo code BOXES, BOXES. I think that is it for this evening. We will be seeing all of you soon. Good luck out there on the playoffs, everybody, and have a good night.